Hi, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are joining us from. My name is Shana Smith. I'm the Director of State Advocacy and Alliance Development for U.S. Pain Foundation, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's presentation titled Mindfulness Tools for Kids. We'll be jumping into the presentation momentarily, but I just wanted to let you all know that on your control panel, you have the opportunity to ask questions using that chat box. You'll see a couple different buttons and icons there. You'll want to click on the questions and submit those either during or at the end of the presentation. And I know our presenter has stated he is more than happy to do a question and answer session at the end. Please also feel free if you're having any technical issues or you can't either hear the speaker or perhaps see the slides, to also make us aware utilizing that questions panel as well. With that, I am happy to introduce today's presenter, Eric Sladek. He's a student of psychology at Governor State University who has a concentration in mindfulness studies. And he's been practicing mindfulness techniques since 2015 with experience in several types of meditation and yoga. Although he's passionate to educate others on mindfulness strategies and perhaps implement them into his own clinical settings one day, he also enjoys sports, nature, reading, and most of all, gaming. However, Eric's main goal is to help everyone realize their authentic self and their purpose. Eric, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and for taking the time to help families and children learn some additional techniques that might help them along their pain journey.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Thank you for, of course, hosting this, U.S. Pain Foundation, and yourself for facilitating this. It'll be an interesting hour, but we'll make it through. Yeah. Again, I'd like to introduce myself a bit more. My name's Eric. Full-time student at a university. This is my passion, what I study. I hope to share my knowledge with you guys, and hopefully you guys can, apply it to your whatever your everyday struggles are. We all have them. Another tool for the toolbox, I guess. And yeah, I believe we're ready. So hopefully I can hide this here. Okay. So just to kind of give you guys a bit of an introduction with regards to the objectives of this webinar. It is aimed for families everywhere. I mean, honestly, this is applicable to anyone. Mindfulness is something that anyone can learn about because it is, at the end of the day, a very individualized concept, right? It's something that anyone honestly can, it's because it's about building a relationship with yourself, right? And for this webinar specifically, approaching your pain in a different light, right? With a different perspective, right? Maturing your relationship with that. So it's aimed for everybody, but for you kids out there, perhaps you're listening, I'm going to try to, as best as I can, keep everyone in mind, but mainly you guys. I've been there. I know how it is. Parents and caregivers out there. This will also be helpful for you guys. It'll be helpful for everyone in that we also need to help other people manage their own pain, right? So let's see. Let's try to move on to this slide here. Kind of new to this, you guys. I'm a little tech savvy, but not too crazy.
That's fine.
Oh, there we go. It's a bit of a delay there, but we're good. So before we can kind of, learn the context of mindfulness and pain, we kind of have to cover the basics with mindfulness itself. Excuse me. So what is it? I mean, we hear mindfulness all the time in a very vague sense, right? We don't really know. We just hear it kind of say like, oh, be mindful of this, right? More so just to pay attention, right? When I've been having a big problem with this my entire life, paying attention in school all the time. I'd be in the desk and looking out the window. It's just much easier to be distracted. The mind naturally wants to do that. It's a survival tactic in some sense. But mindfulness in with regards to um, your mental health and meditation, and for here with managing pain, which we'll get into. Um, it's more so. It's not more complicated by any means, but it's a bit more. It's a bit deeper. It's a bit more about um, being easier on yourself, right? So as you can see here, it says mindfulness is awareness of the present moment while without judgment, and that's key. That's something I will touch on and reiterate a few times throughout the webinar. Um, but the key here is to acknowledge your own feelings, thoughts, and most importantly, your physical sensations, right? So you're not just paying attention to the things around you, but you're also how you pay attention to them. And so by doing that, by looking at things and accepting them and kind of, introspecting on yourself and the way you view them, it opens up a world of freedom. It opens up, you know, excuse me, you can you don't have to take my word for it, right? That's the beautiful thing. You can see for yourself um, how you, just asking yourself these questions, right? So, there are several ways in which you can carry out a practice of mindfulness. There are several techniques. We will be kind of giving one a bit of a go here later on to give ourselves a break. But for now, we can talk about meditations, right? So oftentimes you concentrate on the breath or a focal point in general, the practice of getting distracted by the mind and then coming back to your breath or whatever it is you're intending to focus on. There's yoga, right? More physical activities, which are, once again, guys, this is all for yourself. So oftentimes you'll see how meditation, how yoga should look. But once again, and we'll get into this in a bit more detail, but um, it's all for you. This is self-care at the end of the day, and that's what kind of also what I have written down um, underneath this. But um, do what you need to do for yourself. Take care of your body. Take care of any unwanted pain that you may feel when practicing this, if you do decide to choose. Um, and also, there's body scans. It's a type of meditation in which you pay attention to your body and your feelings, because oftentimes we, from day to day, we go out and we don't even think, right, of our what it feels like for our foot to hit the ground, what it feels like to be sitting in the chair that maybe you're sitting at right now, maybe you're at home on the couch, maybe you're out at work listening, and what it feels like, right, to be for your bottom to be sitting in the chair or your back to be up against the wall, maybe whatever it may be. And so by scanning the body, you can kind of, right, you exhale and your shoulders will drop and you'll kind of recognize maybe the tongue is on the roof of your mouth and you're not letting it go, right? The tension that we hold so many places can be um, making your pain not as manageable as you'd like. Um, and so mindfulness will help us, right? It's not the end all be all cure, but it'll help us. We can do what we can to hopefully you guys can't see these notifications I'm getting. That would be annoying. Sorry about that. But um, mindfulness can help us be aware of our body, right? I mean, I know it's kind of, it may sound a bit like, well, of course I'm aware of of any pain I may feel. It's hard not to be, but at times it can be distracting as well on the other end. Um, and so if we can merely learn to experience the pain without letting emotions that are associated with the pain kind of take over us, then life will be a bit more tolerable and enjoyable. So we'll get into how we do that, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys a a brief overview of what mindfulness is, right? Which is, once again, acceptance, lack of judgment when experiencing the present moment, right? And how you deal with pain. So, um, how does it work, right? Because mindfulness seems like, for some people at least, I know for me, oftentimes it's like it seems like a pipe dream. It seems unattainable to get your mind to a place where you want to be. Um, and that's another thing is, it's not all about creating silence in the mind. It's about making friends with your thoughts. It's about viewing them a different way. But how does that happen, right? So the first step here we see, or not really step, the first point rather, is that in the brain, there's a little thing, right? It's called the amygdala. It's a part of the brain that involves your emotions, right? How you typically react. So, for you kids out there, I know if I'm still a student as well, you know, you multiple teachers assign things at the same time. I feel like they're colluding against us, but don't tell them. So it feels like when they all give us homework assignments, our first reaction is to, you know, we get anxious, right? Or we get upset. We feel a sense of not being treated fairly or whatever it may be. Or maybe you're a bit older, you have several things on, whether it be children or um, several, maybe you work different jobs, however it may be, right? You're driving and someone cuts you off. Your first instinct is almost never to just concentrate on the breath, right? Or to say to yourself, "Oh, that was an interesting experience," right? Um, it's usually an implicit response emotionally that you feel you have no control over. You just get mad, right? It's something that happens to you. And that's the amygdala. That's the part of the brain that lacks the step back that we like to practice in mindfulness. That step back of taking a moment to realize what is happening and like that, just the fact that we're experiencing it. Um, and so I kind of wanted to bring this up with the amygdala just to kind of show that, once again, this is all, excuse me, individual, and this is not anything you have to take my word for, right? This is objective. Well, it's subjective, it's through subjective experience, but at the end of the day, your experiences and perceptions are true to you. And so that the amygdala, um, by it regulating our emotions, right? It We can look at this at the amygdala not as something that's bad, right? Because it oftentimes um, it can help us, right? The amygdala helps us survive. It's actually, if you've ever heard, for anyone out there who has heard, the fight or flight response, the basically the concept that when the body, or in this, the brain actually senses danger, immediate danger, life-threatening situations, your body has three choices. There's fight, there's flight, and then there's freeze as well. We could talk about that, but um, so the amygdala, from an evolutionary perspective, through time, has helped people, survive. It's a necessary thing, but we can get too carried away with, or at least amygdala does get a little too carried away with um, being a bit too automatic and not enough viewing the world through a clear lens, taking things as they are, so to speak. Um, and as you can see on the bottom, there's actually, you know, mindfulness is actually, if I want to take a step back and digress a little bit, um, meditation is one of the most heavily researched topics in psychology. And what is found is through constant practice. So, over time in meditation, the size of the amygdala actually it decreases, right? Parts of the brain that are not used as often, they shrink. That's a term in psychology we call neuroplasticity, which is the fact that your brain actually physically changes based on your thoughts, your things that you experience outside of your body, the way you perceive them. And so through meditation, through take kind of just at least trying, right? Not all the time we're gonna have that thing where we say, okay, I need to meditate, and then the rest of your day is gravy. It never works like that. It's a discipline that takes work. So you practice it, and through time, your amygdala, you change it. You physically change it, and that's a very cool, beautiful thing, quite honestly. But um, that's how that works from a biological perspective, and through a more non-tangible, more emotional perspective. You can see there in the middle, the second point there is um, with mindfulness. If I say the word mindfulness one more time, no, I'm going to say it a lot, guys. Through investigating our own thoughts and feelings, it says we change the way we view everything from day to day. Um, so that's going to be a key principle is, we often want to have control, right? We oftentimes want to change things. And it comes from particularly how we view them, right? We never ask ourselves, we never question ourselves why we view things as bad. Sometimes we do. But most of the time we just believe it. We've always have, so why change it? And when we believe those things, then let's say, for example, you believe it'll be bad if it rains today, right? Um, that's not something you can control. Um, but at the same time, um, using mindfulness, right? You can say, well, that was an interesting thought I had. It doesn't make it the truth just because the thought arose in my mind. It doesn't make it true. But um, it's not necessarily bad just because I that thought, came to mind. It's not necessarily true because at the end of the day, right, just because it rains, you maybe not like the rain, but who knows, right? Maybe you end up staying inside and not going out, and by staying inside, you saw a movie come on TV you've been waiting to see for, something like that. With regards to pain, um, it'll be a bit more tricky, right? Everything's different. Every experience, they're not all treated equally. With pain, of course, um, it's not going to go away, but the way we deal with the um, the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts that come after the pain, if we kind of not necessarily manipulate that, but if we kind of experience them, just merely experience them instead of identifying with them and living with them and holding them on tightly, perhaps we can build a better relationship with our pain. And I will plan to expound on that in a little bit. And to this third point here, I thought this was important for people to kind of know that in any meditation, I mean, it typically starts with the breathing, right? You focus on your breathing, and the typical way of practicing meditation in general is, you take a deep breath in, if you let it out, and oftentimes with stress and with physical pain, especially because along with emotional pain, with physical pain, it'll have much stress on your body. But we kind of hold a lot of that tension I was talking about earlier in different parts of your body. We a lot of times hold it in our breath, and we forget to breathe. That's why a lot of times you hear people they do one of those, right? And it happens to all of us. So in meditation, we kind of come back to the breath because it's the one thing that's always there for us, no matter what. We always have our breath, and um, to remember that is something that goes a lot longer of a way than you may expect. Um, so, how does this apply particularly for pain, right? I mean, because it's easy for anyone to look like this this fellow right here, this gentleman, right? It's easy for some people to sit like that. It ain't easy for me, I'll tell you that. That makes my back hurt just looking at it. Sorry. Um, but it's going to be, like I said earlier, very individual experience. This is a very self-orientated practice. This is all for you. So, um, looking at this first question here, right? What about my specific pain? Like, will it be different for me? Like, you're telling me all these things about mindfulness and you've brought up meditation, but you don't know the pain I go through. And it's true. I don't know the exact pain. Um, However, this is a tool that's designed for you, not to make your pain go away. This is more so for you um, to experience. Okay, so for example, this if you want to meditate, like let's say, because for me, I have had really bad shoulder problems for the past um, month or two. I did a bit of it was like an intramural thing my university was doing. There was like a flag football thing, and it's supposed to be it's supposed to be safe with flag football, but things happen, and it came down on my shoulder, and it's been a lingering pain ever since. Maybe your pain's a bit more severe, more acute. Maybe it's more chronic, and it still hurts a lot. But I can't meditate the way I used to because my shoulder requires a certain placement. Like I used to lay down on my back, it felt really comfortable for me. Now, I put a little bit more support under my back, right? So never let anyone tell you how you should meditate, right? You need to experience what you need to experience in that given moment, and you should not be sorry for that. So will it be different for you? It will be different in that what makes you more comfortable will be different, but your ability to have a successful meditation is not different. Um, Now, what can I do other than mindfulness-based techniques? Wait, what can I do other than other mind? Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Geesh. What can I do? I did write this wrong. What can I do other? Yeah, okay. So basically, the question should ask, what other mindfulness-based techniques? And so, other than meditation, I mentioned yoga earlier. That's a bit more physical. Like that kind of also helps with the immediate biological, the physical symptoms, but this is something, the self-affirmation and mantras that's practiced in mindfulness. These are less experiencing what's going on around you in a objective sense. This is more of something that can be done. This is more something that can be done quicker. It can be done more anywhere, right? So, for example, a self-affirmation or what we call mantras, these are things that we tell ourselves over and over again, right? So, I'm going to see if I can come up with an example for you guys. So, for example, um, let's say you take the bus to work, right? And you're sitting there and you're you have a pain shooting up your leg and it's terrible, right? Um, that I had that problem in high school. I had a bit of a spinal issue, but you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, this isn't really the most conducive place to stretch or even, meditate on it or really find any peace. But with self-affirmations, you can all it takes is just to a reminder to yourself that I am experiencing this pain and it hurts. And even though there's nothing I can do to control it right now, realizing that doesn't help me. But if I can tell myself that, you know, the sadness I feel from this pain, I am experiencing that. I am not the sadness. I'm not this guilt that I feel from the pain in not being able to do something someone else can't do. I'm experiencing these feelings, but I am not that, right? You can tell yourself these things over and over. You can tell, like oftentimes in what we call a loving kindness meditation, you tell yourself of the care that you deserve because everyone deserves that, right? Everyone deserves the, everyone's bodies deserve to be as physically at peace as possible. Everyone deserves um, the luxury, or in this case, it should be a right to lean on other people for help. We all deserve this. So mindfulness, it helps us get out of that automaticity that we call it, that automatic, what's next on our list day to day, right? And we kind of get out of that and say, you know, how am I experiencing this pain, and um, how are my emotions making my pain more tolerable, or maybe I'm making it worse. So just being mindful of these things help us, right? That it's not, once again, it's not going to get rid of all of our problems, our worries, our pain, but over time, this simple coming back to our pain, or whether it be the pain or at the present moment, maybe it's an emotional stress, coming back to what is actually real will actually help you see that you can overcome it, right? Because I was actually I've never done one of these webinars right before, right? So to be a little transparent here, I was having a little bit of trouble sleeping last night, and I was like, oh, tomorrow this webinar, it's going to be interesting. I've never done it before. And then I sat there and I started to, I meditated, and I was going, and I was getting distracted, right? I kept thinking of things I have to do, and that doesn't mean I failed in my meditation, though, right? So, because I was able to come back to the present moment, I said, wait a second. The only thing that's around me right now is my home, the air around me, the aromas and the smells. And I did feel a bit uncomfortable, right? I did feel a bit uncomfortable in my body. I was sitting there, and I was getting a bit restless. I have RLS sometimes, and I was sitting there feeling a bit restless, and I thought to myself, ah, man, this, if I can only sit up like this, or if I can only, make that go away, this would be great. And then I thought to myself, wait, that was a thought, right? Because that's not necessarily true just because I thought it. And that, me right there having that realization, I never would have had that a few years ago if I hadn't started practicing this. And it'll come one day, but as long as you just come back to the present moment just once, you're already succeeding, and you're having a successful meditation. And this realization, like it says here on the bottom, changes our relationship with our pain, which makes it more manageable, right? To not necessarily, your pain's not going to ever become your best friend, but if you can learn to tolerate it, then um, yeah, along with all the other tools you have, such as whether you go to physical therapy if it's that bad, whether, there's some self-care techniques you take care of on your own. This is another tool, will only enhance the other tools, if that makes sense, that you use, right? Because we will be more, we'll be, we'll know more about our pain and how it affects us, right? So I had this planned. I was going to take a bit of a break. If oh, please don't kill me for saying your name wrong. I was gonna, is it Shana or Shana? If she wanted to kind of take a break and ask questions, she can. But I had planned 10 to 15 minutes of a bit of a meditation that everyone can partake in. Any kids or parents watching. Hopefully, we can kind of get some um, hands-on, hands-on, so to speak, kind of experience some practice here before ending the webinar here, and pretty soon, 20, 30 minutes, however long it'll take. But um, yeah, let me see.
It's Shayna. You haven't. I mean,
I,
I've been called way worse. Don't worry.
I thought if I gave two options, I would cover the bases there.
No problem, Erin.
Oh, jeez.
Just kidding. So folks that are with us today, do you have a preference? Do you want to jump into the Q&A and then end on the meditation, or do you want to meditate first? Feel free to just let us know by typing it in the questions and or chat, and we'll go from there. And I love, Eric, the photos that you use, and just noting too that, just looking at one of the photos, you personally couldn't meditate that way. And then in this photo as well, it's showing that,
Hmm.
what might work for one person may not work for
Yes.
everybody, which I think is a great message. Oh, so one person said they prefer to meditate after. So let's just, if
Okay.
it's okay right with you, we'll kick off the Q&A first.
Sure thing. Absolutely.
Okay, so this is your time, for those of you who are with us, to ask any questions about mindfulness techniques, or just the presentation or any of the slides, or any of the discussion points that Eric has brought up at this time. I'll kick it off, Eric, because I have a few of my own, and we'll see if some more
Awesome.
trickle in. So I'm thinking of my 8-year-old son
Mm-hmm.
who has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and
Uh,
more so the comorbid conditions can sometimes creep up when we're in public settings.
sure.
And so I'm just curious if you think that mindfulness techniques is something that can be practiced anywhere and at any time, or if
Mhm.
it should just be when we're at home.
Yeah.
What's your?
So first things first, to answer that shortly, I mean, in theory, yes, you could practice it anywhere at any time, but I feel, nothing's really black and white like that. I feel with like you said, your child who suffers from different pains at the same time. Um, that it may be a bit unrealistic, right? To want to sit through that at any time, any place. Like for example, on this picture, this I kind of wanted to include that because she needs, right, to not feel this pain that's being illustrated in her spine. She has some support, whether those are pillows or towels, whatever they may be. Her body deserves that support, and so for your kid, I would say, um, if the pain is a bit too excruciating, at the end of the day, there are several self-care techniques that um, kids can use regardless of the type of pain. I know oftentimes people, maybe your kid, it hides pain really well, maybe not, but um, if you can, let me see, how do I word this? If you can kind of put your finger on it and see how bad the pain is, I would suggest to kind of wait till you can get your body in a more, maybe not more comfortable, but more tolerable, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes it's not always going to be perfect. Um, like for example, if you guys are, if you're like let's say in the car, right, and then all of a sudden gets really bad, and you're not going to be home for a while. Um, if the seats are comfortable and maybe the seats don't matter, maybe it's just um, the EDS at that particular time is affecting him or her so much that it doesn't matter, then maybe there's something else um, in with addition to mindfulness and meditation, because this is not to kind of replace anything else. It's more so of a supplement. So I would just kind of say, whatever you've used to manage the pain in previous times, kind of, I would also focus on that as well. And then if meditation's feasible, I would go for that. Just in general, just kind of not force it, right? Meditation isn't something where you force it and you're like, oh, I got to be peaceful. I got to get rid of my pain. It's going to be like when you're ready to kind of, sit with whatever it is you need to sit with to make friends with it a little bit. So hopefully that
Right.
answers it.
Sure. Yeah. And I think too, it's so individual, like you had stated. So what might be comfortable and fine for me may not be comfortable for a child because they may feel like they're maybe being judged more so in a public setting,
Right.
whereas maybe an adult just doesn't care at that point. They just want to feel some sort of release to manage their pain and continue, completing whatever that task is, get home and then be able to maybe do some more deep breathing. Um,
Absolutely.
so that
Yeah.
that does make sense. Kelly had a question. She wanted to know if you have some mantras that you can suggest.
Ooh, that's a good question. Actually, I have, hold on one second, okay? I have a
Mhm.
book. I'm gonna go get it. It's across the room. One second.
No worries. While he's doing that, if any of you have some mantras that you use, please feel free to type them as a question, and we can share those as well with others.
So I actually have a book that I use this semester. It's called Relational Mindfulness, and there is a chapter here um, on some mantras. It's under the loving kindness meditation section. I want to get her some good ones here. I don't want to come up with some because I know the person that wrote this book is amazing. Let's see here. Part one. If there's any other questions, I can come back to this one when I find it. If not, I can. You can stay with me here. Let's see.
Oh, yeah. Well, while you're looking up, I'll share some mantras that other people are sharing among each
Oh
other.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
I
one
would love to hear him as
says,
well.
yeah, and it sounds like these are for the children that the caregivers are working with them on these mantras.
Uh huh.
And Kelly says, with the little one, we tell them take a deep breath and count 1, 2, 3. I'm taking care of me. And
Oh,
then
I love that.
another one, Rachel says, I am safe. I love and accept my body.
Yes, yes, those are great. Um, yeah, it's things that we fail. Typically, it's things that we fail to say to ourselves, right? Before starting this webinar, I know you and I were talking a bit about being our biggest critic, right? Everyone is, and usually
For
we say
sure.
things, yeah, we usually say things to ourselves that we would never say to someone else. And so, taking that time um, to remind yourself, right? The 1, 2, 3, and the I am safe. These are things that the more you tell yourself them, the more you'll remember in everyday life. And so those are some good ones. Some other ones I know of are ones that um, they typically start out with the same couple words, and they just focus on different um, things. Like, for example, may I be free from suffering. May I live in peace. Things like this, right? You kind of set the intention, you set the tone, you set what you're deserving of. May I be secure with myself. May I be free from insecurity, right? So you're looking at both sides of it. You're looking at the good and the bad. You want to be free from the bad. You want to be with the good. So those are some examples. And I love the ones that they shared as well. If you guys want to keep sharing, I would love to read them. So
Yeah, Rachel also says one breath at a time, one moment at a time, and every moment passes.
Rachel knows. Yep, that's that's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, and I appreciate too Rachel's other mantra that starts off with "I am safe" because I think
Hmm.
for a child who has a chronic condition, they may feel out of control and they don't have, that they don't have control of
Yes.
their body and the pain that they're
Uh-huh.
experiencing, which can be a very anxious and scary time for them, and it can trigger that fight or flight that you were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
So I think setting that tone by having that child start off with "I am safe" and doing that self talk, I think that's great.
Oh, it is great because also to kind of touch on a lot of times we need guidance, right? We don't know if we just kind of sit there and try to breathe. It's kind of hard to let the mind wander. So if we have that guidance and intention, it has great effect. Yeah, another thing I can think of is to keep reminding yourself, keep telling yourself that you don't have to identify with your thoughts, right? You don't have to identify with your emotions, right? You're simply a a human, a loving, soul person um, that experiences these things. You are not your sadness. You're not your anxiety. You're not these things. Telling yourself this, in my experience, and I know others have shared this as well, that alone, that realization alone, has helped them so much with overcoming all the stuff we have to deal with from day to day. It makes things that used to be insurmountable a bit more achievable. So yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to go to Rachel for some of those because I know she's good for that stuff. So I thank you, Rachel.
And maybe depending on their age or just depending on the personality, some
Hmm.
children may, after this presentation, that the caregiver goes back and says, today I learned about this. I think we want, maybe we should try this the next time that you're not feeling well, or let's try this tonight just to see how it goes.
Hmm.
And either the child is not buying into it, or they do it and they're like, well, that didn't do anything. Um,
Right.
are you going to notice immediate results, or is this something that takes practice and time?
Yeah, very, very good question. Because, in today's world, right, where we microwave a lot of our food, where we're expecting it to be done in a couple of minutes, right? Um, we want to fix things as fast as possible. And this is meditation is considered a practice for that reason, is because it's a practice. It is a discipline to some extent. Would not tell anyone to expect immediate results. Although it's possible. I know for me, um, and I would say a vast majority of anyone that has ever done meditation for longer periods of time will tell you that their first couple times were, to be honest, terrible. Like it was because you're not used to sitting with things that make you uncomfortable. You want to avoid them. You want to distract yourself from them. Um, and so through time, so to answer your question, yes, I would say it's something that takes time. And you know, people often say meditation isn't for me. I can't calm my mind. Um, I'm just not that kind of person. My mind's too busy. And then I would argue,
Right.
well, then that means, you would probably benefit from it, right? I mean, there's different types of meditation. It's a very broad
Hmm.
subject, and depending on your, whether it be your life situation or mental health, there are particular meditations for different people. But in general, um, yeah, it's definitely something that anyone can take their experiences and their thoughts, whether that's past judgments or future anxiety, or I'm sorry, anxiety about the future. Um, they can um, see with themselves that these things that they experience pass. They come and they go. And um, through that, like through time, when you keep doing that, you see that, excuse me again, that it's I don't even know the right word for it. It's like an awakening kind of. You view the world
Hmm.
a different way. So it's definitely something that takes time, but it's worth the practice. The practice is something you get momentum and you keep doing it, and you get yourself in a thing where it's like, oh my God, I haven't meditated in a couple of days. No wonder I'm crazy. So it gets, you'll get there, but yeah.
And so someone did say, touching to the point of your mind is so busy, an attendee says that they always feel that they're messing up their meditation because
Mm,
they let their mind wander. But
yeah.
if they're understanding you correctly, are you saying that you're actually being successful because you're coming back to reality?
So to answer that, I would say letting, like, if your mind is wandering and distracting, that means that's what you needed to experience. Um, Rachel knows her very well. Um, One of the people that helped me get into meditation more so, her name is Anna, and She often told me that whatever I was experiencing during my meditation is exactly what I needed to experience. And so, what I took from that and what I apply to my life so much now is to kind of remove the expectation from meditation, right? If you expect to go into meditation with a clear, like you're going to go in there and it's going to be the most pleasant, peaceful thing ever, then the paradox there is that it's probably not going to happen. But if you're going to go into it and say whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and I need to experience that, then the thoughts that arise, you let it happen. It comes to you, and instead of living inside of them and getting caught up in them and distracted by them, you kind of, oh, that's interesting, and then you kind of go back to the present moment, and that right there, your mind got distracted a little bit, but you came back, right? Whether it's to the breath, whether you're meditating with people, and you come back to the realization that you're surrounded by people and that you are safe, and that or maybe you come back to the present moment in that you're feeling your feet on the ground, right? You're doing a body scan. That rep, I call it a rep, like a push up, right? Coming back to the present moment just once is a successful meditation. So if your mind is getting distracted, it doesn't mean you failed. It means that's what you needed to experience. That's what I believe is how you change your relationship with yourself and in pain. So that's a really good question, though. I thank you for asking that.
Not a problem. And someone is just grateful that that you took the time to help them learn about meditation. So I think with that,
Mhm.
let's go right into the session, and we can maybe ask people how they felt the session went.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we're starting our meditation then. Okay. So so once again, guys, ladies and gentlemen, like I've said in the past, this is a um, experience for you, right? So whether or no matter where you're at right now, do what you can for you. It's all you can do to, you know, take the time you need and that you deserve to sit with whatever you need to sit with right now. The holidays are coming up and can be stressful, and so I want everyone to do what they need to get comfortable, whatever that means to you. And we're gonna start with the breath, like I said, most meditations do. So just a few, just breathe in, breathe out. Another one. Breathe in and out. Now you can continue to breathe, and if you have any thoughts that come up, maybe something's bothering you either physically or emotionally, something's been bothering you for a while. This is your time. This is a safe space in which you can always have it. It's always there for you. So take advantage of that and remember that you can always come back to my voice, to your breath, to whatever it is you're standing on or against, sitting, whatever it may be. And don't judge yourself if you get distracted. Just acknowledge it and keep going. Just keep breathing. It's okay. So just remember that throughout the next 10 or so minutes. Breathe out. And just remember that your heart, right? You can feel your heart beating. You can loosen your jaw up a little bit. Right? I tend to clench my jaw when I'm stressed without knowing it. The tongue relax, the shoulders drop. Again, coming back to the breath and the heart. How often do we, acknowledge our heartbeat and the fact that everything that needs to happen for your heart to beat, for you to stay living, It's hard to remain grateful for that, but when you do, it's a beautiful thing. No thoughts you can ever have or worries. Change those facts that you're living, that you're here. You made it through so much. So just continue to scan your body and be appreciative of your breath and so many other things that allow you to function and take care of others. Remain appreciative, keep breathing. If you get distracted, just come on back. It's part of the dance is what I call it. It's a dance. Back and forth. If you start to get distracted by a common theme, maybe you want to sit with it for a little bit, right? Maybe you want to ask yourself why that is. Right? Once again, it's all about you and whatever you need. There's for whatever it is that's arising in your brain and your mind over and over. It's not a bad thing. It's for a reason. It just is. It's not necessarily good or bad. It just is. If you're feeling extraordinary amounts of pain, once again, feel free to move. Maybe you don't have to partake in this meditation. If you have to move around for whatever reason, then by all means, this is all about you. So, next few minutes will just be silent, just with yourself. I suppose we can conclude this meditation with just a few mantras. It seems like the audience there has great value in them. Thankfully, we all do. We all should at least. If you're newer to meditation, I understand if those few minutes seemed like an eternity for you. Um, I promise the more you practice it, the more the opposite happens, where 20 minutes go by without you knowing it. But I didn't want to make you guys suffer if this seemed like an eternity for you. So we'll end with some mantras here. So we continue to breathe, right? We take care of ourselves. We We remind ourselves that we deserve these few minutes, right? We always want to do something and never give ourselves consent or permission to do nothing, right? And so we've done that, and because we deserved it and we needed it. And we can tell ourselves that one key mantra we can say is that, let's see, may I not be a prisoner of my mind. May I be a spectator of the mind. You could say this to yourself now. May I not be a prisoner of the mind. Instead, maybe I can be a spectator or a friend, someone that just experiences, right? Whatever whatever needs to happen. I often tell myself, try to remind myself, I oftentimes forget because, like I said, we're gonna get distracted, right? We're human. We're gonna lose sight of what's real. But I try. It's the best I can do is try, is to remind myself that whatever happens was meant to happen. If you're feeling pain, maybe it's because the pain, right? It's testing you. Maybe it's making you stronger in other areas that you were meant to put out there, right? So whatever happens was meant to happen because, well, I mean, it happened. There's no other option. So may I be unconditionally in love with myself and not feel any regret about that. No guilt. If I do feel guilt, however, or shame, I will not judge myself for that either. So for the next few moments, we can remind ourselves of these things. If we get distracted again, just come back. These repetitions are to be expected. It's okay. So, well, once again, we'll end now with a few breaths and with whatever energy you may have refilled yourself with, or any motivation you've refilled yourself with, or maybe you haven't, and that's okay too. But if you have, let's set out a goal for the rest of the day, for the rest of the weekend, during the holidays to help others achieve, possibly if you achieve something today, right? If you've made a realization about yourself, that let's help others do the same. We need more of that in this world. Let's help others do that. Let's be more grateful for the others in our lives. But it starts with ourselves, with what we're doing right now. You're here right now. So if you feel like you failed this meditation, why are you here? You're here because you're trying, and that in itself is a win. Okay, so this is going to conclude the meditation. And I want to thank you guys for coming and experiencing this with me and allowing me to experience it with you. And I hope you guys have happy holidays. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them, and I may, if I'm able to, stay and help you find an answer.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Yes,
I'm
no
just
problem.
giving everyone a few moments to come back and open their eyes. And if anyone wanted to provide questions or just feedback or comments on your meditation experience here, please
Yes.
feel free to to do so before we conclude.
Yes, reflection's always a key part for sure.
So I'll just say, Eric, I don't really do meditation
Hmm.
often, if ever, but and I didn't think it was going to work this time just because I had mentioned to Eric before we started the broadcast that I have a lot of distraction, a lot of background noise that's happening today. I have some construction going on. I have the vacuum is going in the other room. I have my pet bird on my shoulder who is nibbling at,
Oh.
my earbuds. And so I'm like, this isn't going to happen. And then at whatever point it was in my mind for me, it just clicked. And I didn't realize that I had something that needed to be addressed that just crept up for me, and I didn't even realize it was something that was on my mind until I was able to quiet the mind. And also, I'm not. I wish my sisters were on here because they wouldn't believe me. I never cry. And for some reason, I got really emotional during this meditation session too,
Hmm.
which was good. It needed to happen.
Yes.
So thank you for that experience and opportunity. I appreciated that.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's great. That's another thing really, um, important. It's really beautiful with mindfulness is allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, right? It's a sign, a lot of people go around, people may put up a stigma that that's a sign of weakness, in which case it's not, right? It's for you, you say it's your sisters wouldn't believe that you cried, maybe because you typically, it's just, it's not a part of, how you deal with things or whatever the case may be,
Mm,
with meditation, whether this was, one of your first experiences or maybe down the line it'll happen. But to be vulnerable, I mean, to allow yourself to feel that releases a lot in you that you didn't know you had built up. So that's really great. And I'm glad for you because I know I've had those experiences and not much feels better than that. So thank you.
no, thank you. I didn't know if anybody else was able to participate in the meditation, despite if they were dealing with some pain. If you wanted to share your experience, I believe I can unmute you if you would like to address Eric because we have a small group where it would work in
Yeah.
doing that.
So
But
there's
I
not
think
going to be like 100 people talking at once.
no. Well, I
That'd
would
be
unmute them one at a time.
no worries, no worries.
Yeah. We're not hearing. I think that, silence is a good thing. I think everyone probably is in a very calm state right now. so,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
thank you, Eric, for that opportunity. I will let everyone know that today's presentation was recorded and therefore it will be emailed to you about I believe, one day after, so Saturday, around this time. You'll receive an email thanking you for joining, and it will include a link to view this again. Perhaps you want to have your child experience the meditation components, or look through the slides. And again, if you wanted to just practice the meditation portion, just scrolling down towards the end here where we can have that guided meditation at your fingertips, and whenever you need it. It's also going to be uploaded on the US Pain's website. So with that, I thank you, Eric, so much. And if anyone has any follow-up questions, please feel free to email me, Shana at uspainfoundation.org. I'd be happy to forward them to Eric, if that works for you, Eric, if that's
Yeah,
the best way.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. And
perfect.
also, um, perhaps I could leave some sort of contact information on the Facebook page as well. If people want to contact me directly, that's fine as well. That's cool. But yeah, I just wanted to say a final thank you to you, Shayna, for helping facilitate this, and the U.S. Pain Foundation, Pediatric Pain Warriors. Um, it's what you guys are doing is wonderful, and yeah, it's a grateful experience for me, 100%. So yeah, I thank you guys, and enjoy your weekend. I mean,
Thank you.
great. Really
Thanks,
enjoy.
everyone. Be well.